This is going to be a relative guide informing you of, at least in my opinion, the better ways to spend your stamina on your way from 30 to 40 and beyond. This is not a min-max based guide. This is not a guide informing you of exactly what you should do. Instead, I just want to advise you on what's, in my opinion, the best ways to go about it. Because at the end of the day, it's a video game. Have fun and do what you want. Now, I want everybody to understand, if you look at my account currently, I have a lot of units built up to 40s and 50s and 60s. That's not necessary. Please just focus on 8 units. I just did this because I'm skipping like the next couple banners until Silver Wolf comes out. And then once that happens, I'm skipping again. So I have nothing else to do and I want to get a feel for how all these characters work. If you have a character who you know you're going to use long term, maybe it's not any of your current main damage dealers, but instead it is a Harmony character like Tinyun. Please farm her mats out. Once you reach 40, these mats drop at 3 per 30 stamina that you spend, and that's a much better comparison to the 2 they previously would pre-40. And it may not seem like a lot, but it does save you at least some stamina long term. Now don't get me wrong, this may improve once you reach 50, but I don't think a vast majority of individuals are at that stage yet, so this is for everyone out. Obviously pre-farming is important, but I do want individuals to get into the habit of at the very least planning out 2 teams. Yes, I know if we're looking at these teams right now, they're the exact same except for the hunt character. So instead, plan out the unit that you may legitimately want to use, maybe it's your shielder for preservation or your healers or whatever the case may be, and then build 2 individual teams for them. This one's for Zile, this one's for Yanqing. All the characters in here need to be built up separately because you do need to swap them around for Memory of Chaos. And I do want every individual to at the very least get a rough idea of what roles they want to fulfill. Yes, you want to have preservation characters for certain units like Yanqing, or if your team is entirely squishy, you want a Japard, or maybe Fire MC. It doesn't matter, as long as you have that role fulfilled, you're fine. At the same time, even though these relics here may be useful to you, and you may want to really build out a roster of these, I don't think for the vast majority of individuals you should be focusing on these. Once you get the little points and coins from her to store, yes, go ahead, use these for whatever set you think is best. I don't think these are the be-all end-all. Once again, I'd say prioritize substats on 4-star gears before spending a bunch of stamina on 5-star sets. Now, I want to preface that by saying, if you have your entire main team built up and the traces are fully leveled to the degree that you want them to be, then it's perfectly fine to look at your resources and say, okay, I have the units I want built up, now I can farm relics. But only do that if their light cones are built up. Only do that if the guaranteed bonuses for your account and for your units are already settled and finished, because you don't want to be in a situation where once you get to Trailblaze level 50 or 40 and you can ascend a unit, you don't have the materials, the credits, or the experience to do that. As of right now, if I reach Equilibrium level 4, I have nothing prepped for my Yanqing. So for me, it makes the most sense to pre-farm those materials because I know this guy's going to stick with me long term. Same with Zile, same with Bailu. So take a look at your roster and maybe don't look at the units right now that you have in your teams and say you want to build all of them up, but instead look at the ones who you can see yourself using long term. I can see myself using a Tinyun long term because she's a great buffer. Same thing with Asta. Same thing with Bailu and Natasha because they're healers and they're the only ones we have. So with that being said, if you're an individual who maybe doesn't have a lot of 5-star units, maybe aren't sure of what you want to do with your account currently, take a look at the guaranteed units long term, the ones who will last you. The MC is honestly a good investment solely because they will eventually unlock more paths. And maybe one of those paths is going to be really useful for you. Maybe not, who knows? But at the end of the day, you would rather have them built up just in case than to scramble trying to build them later. Especially since the mats are free. Not these, but these. You get these from the store. Now, this isn't a necessarily stamina-oriented one, but I'd say if you are someone who really wants to get the most value for your little herd of shop coins, the immersifiers, please push into Simulated Universe. I understand it can be incredibly difficult to do so, but when you're using these, you don't need to clear the stage. You just need to get to the point to where you can spend them. Maybe it's the first elite boss. You defeat them, and then you reset and do it again. As long as you clear these out, you can gain the essential sets from each and every one of these. I'd say that for a lot of individuals, the inert set is going to be great for the crit rate bonus because a lot of you will focus on building out crit, and this may be good for your Fire MC. This may be good for your March 7th, your Japard. And if you're an individual who just wants to play more of the game and maybe you don't particularly care about what you're doing, try and collect all the blessings. Maybe do a run on a lower world level just to get all the curios and the blessings, because you know you have the damage to clear it already. Next up, Forgotten Hall. I understand this is a fun, more endgame oriented game mode, but for a lot of individuals who are going to attempt to push through this really heavily just for the gems, it's not worth it. Memory of Chaos is the part that resets, and as of right now, a lot of individuals, mainly most of you, or even me, we do not have enough damage and we are not high enough level to actually gear our units to be strong enough to do so. They're level 68. The highest unit I have is a level 60. So at a certain point, my damage is going to drop off, not necessarily because they're not geared properly, but because of the level difference between me and the enemies I'm facing off against. And if you don't have 2 healers, what are you going to do? You either have to run one really good healer on one side and a bunch of maxed out preservation characters on the other, or pray that you can weakness break them. I just don't think it's worthwhile to focus on this. We have a small roster right now. Build out the 4 or 8 units that you really enjoy using, the ones who you really want to see built up long term and push into harder content. Maybe you like Asta. Maybe you like Hook. It doesn't matter. As long as you find a character you enjoy, just build them up. And if you're looking at this and you're wondering what should you focus on in Survival Index, please wait until the end of the week to do your Echo of War. If you think you're, gonna cross over that edge to the 30 or to the 40s or maybe even 50s, please wait to farm traces or relics at least until your traces are built up, until your main characters are built up, the ascension mats, everything else. This should be your last priority just because it's not a guaranteed upgrade to your account. And guaranteed upgrades are fun. I know getting a wonderfully rolled relic can be amazing, but if it is not a guaranteed upgrade, if it is not a guaranteed improvement to your damage or to your progress, it's just not worthwhile. A lot of individuals are going to choose to focus on this synthesis material for relic crafting because I think a lot of people are looking at this saying, oh, once you get the self-modeling resin, you can essentially build your own custom sets. And yes and no. This self-modeling resin only guarantees a good main stat, and you can only get one of these per battle pass reset. So yeah, you can maybe slowly grind out a set through this, but it's not really worthwhile to pray for or focus on. In my case, as I mentioned before, Yanqing is my main damage healer. He was the one who I had at the beginning of the game, and I got this piece for him using self-modeling resin. Do you see any crit rate? Do you see any speed? Effect resistance is there, and break effect is good, so that's fine, but I think effect hit rate, yeah, effect hit rate. I would much rather that on this piece. And Yanqing wants crit damage because he gains so much crit rate to begin with. So don't rely on the self-modeling resin to build you out a good set. As you can see here, my Yanqing is still running a 4-star set, or 4-star relic. My Zealot is still running a 4-star main body relic because despite the immense amount of farming I've done, like spending about 4,000 stamina on the relic domains, it hasn't given me anything worthwhile for a crit rate main piece. I didn't even care about substats. I just needed the main piece. It hasn't given me one. I want to advise everybody here to please focus on your light cones, focus on your traces, focus on your levels. Your relics should be your last priority just because the content we have as of right now is not going to be difficult enough for you to bum rush towards this. Yes, Forgotten Hall is hard, but that shouldn't be your focus. Forgotten Hall is the main point. I understand that. It's difficult, but Memory of Chaos is 600 gems every refresh, and that sounds nice, but if you're wasting more stamina trying to rush through this content, you're essentially going to pay for that later on down the line. At least in my opinion. I'd say Forgotten Hall itself, the initial base value, that's fine. Simulated Universe, you can get buffs to mitigate the amount of damage you would theoretically need, whether that be the hunt, or destruction, or preservation, or remembrance, whatever. Everything in between is fine. XP materials, that's fine. Yes, the value goes up as you ascend equilibrium levels, but it doesn't matter that much. Just farm these if you need them. Trace materials, these are always good, especially if you know you're going to pick up somebody like Silverwolf, or somebody like Jinyuan, or somebody like anyone else. I forget the names, maybe Kafka. And you know the paths they're going to need? Grab these beforehand. I am always low on hunt materials. And then finally, the same goes for these character mats. At equilibrium level 2, you get 2 of these drops. At equilibrium level 3, like me, you get 3. At 4, which you get to, I believe, at Trailblazer level 50, you get 3 or 4, I don't know. The drop rate increases 1 per rank And that's fine, but in the event that you legitimately don't have anything else to spend it on and you want to avoid relics, get these. Because once you get up to the next rank, you're going to get extras of these every time you farm them, or every other time you farm them. And Echoes of War are always a good thing, even if you don't get these. I really want more of this, but I don't get it. But that's just my opinion. And I understand these may be general tips for a lot of you who've been playing as, for a long period right now, but if you're an individual who's just going to hop in, then at the very least, have fun first, worry about min-maxing second.